After being on the iPhone 11 since I got it, which was about 6 months ago, I've recently just switched back to an Android device with the OnePlus 8. And I realised it's actually been way over a year since I showed you how I have my Android devices set up. So I think we should dive back into it and I'll show you how I have this one set up. So for this Android setup, I've worked on keeping things really simple. In previous setups, I would have lots of different widgets and app layouts and all that sort of thing, but I just don't feel like I need to do that anymore, and it was more distraction than it was worth. For a launcher, I would usually put Nova Launcher on an Android phone, but since OnePlus put out this version of Oxygen OS, I really don't feel like I've needed to. This has given me the look that I've wanted to without having to put Nova Launcher on or anything like that, so that's really nice. Just so you know, the wallpaper will be linked below, so if you like that and you want to grab it, go for it. I like it because it covers up the cutout at the top there. If you've got like a black background at the top, it makes it appear much smaller. Actually, you can't even barely see it, so that's why I've gone for this sort of thing. Usually I have quite a light wallpaper, but for this, I think it's perfect at doing that. So yeah, let's dive into it. So the only widget I do use nowadays is this one from Google, which is just at a glance. It gives you the date, it gives you the temperature, and I don't feel like I need a clock up here. I used to have a clock up here all the time, but you got the clock up here, so you just don't really need it. And I think it keeps it nice and clean. It also puts calendar things in there, so if you've got something on your calendar, it will pop up at the top, which is quite nice too. I'm not using any icon packs either. These are just the ones that come as standard, so nothing fancy there. On the left, I've got this Google shelf, which I think comes as standard anyway. OnePlus used to have their own version of it, but the Google one is just kind of better. I never really liked that OnePlus one, so I'm happy they've gone back to a Google-based one. And on the right page, I've got all the apps that I use on a regular basis. So that's kind of how the home page is set up, just 3 windows like that. So let's go over the apps I have along the bottom. These are the most used, so phone is obviously the phone. Google Chrome for web browsing. I have the camera there, of course. WhatsApp is still the king of messaging here in the UK, so that's what we use. And the Spotify is what I use for all my music. I've been on Spotify for a really long time, and it's something that I have with a few mates, so it's nice and cheap. I like Spotify. It's not perfect. There's lots of things I don't like about it, especially the Android version. You can't swipe to add a song to a queue, which is annoying, but Spotify is great. The only thing I hate about that is the Google Chrome icon doesn't fill out. It's like a round icon anyway, so I don't see why it isn't just fill, and it has this weird white surround to it. Anyway, so let's look over the apps on the right hand side. Imager or Imgur is just a way to browse subreddits in a picture way. You can just literally just swipe through like that. Nice and easy, lots of laughs in there. YouTube, if I'm not making YouTube videos, I am watching YouTube videos, so that's my go-to for that. YouTube Studio, so I can see all my videos and see how they're doing. Gmail, you don't need to see. Photos is really good. I have this on my iPhone as well, and it just means all the photos I take come around with me. I really like the Google Photos app. I think it's really good. OneDrive is my online cloud storage system. There's no particular reason I use OneDrive, it's just the one I happen to use. I do pay for it as well, so that's quite useful. The Play Store is good as well. I quite like browsing for new apps, although I often don't really download them. I do think iOS does a better job at presenting apps to you to like try out, because it's so difficult to find apps now. I find I stick to a certain amount and then that's it, but I like browsing around here every now and then, just having a look. So that stays on the homepage. Instagram, more than anything, is just so I can get ideas for inspiration. I follow a lot of artists and stuff, and it's great to get, colours and ideas for videos and all that sort of thing. I really like it. I look at a lot of camera setups as well and those sorts of things. But yeah, I really like Instagram, and if you want to follow me over there, it's @ByteReview, and I post lots of colourful tech-based pictures. But yeah, that's Instagram. Twitter, my social media of choice. I absolutely love Twitter. My feed is really created for anything tech-based, and I think there is a good way to use social media. I know a lot of people dislike it, but if you follow what you want to follow and unfollow what you don't want to follow, which sounds stupid, you can actually get a really great curated feed of just stuff that you want to see. I've met loads of nice people on Twitter, and it's just a great place to hang out. Really love it. If you want to hear any behind the scenes stuff from me there, just follow me. It's @ByteReview. And lastly, I have the photo folder, which has all the apps I use for photo editing. I've talked about these a lot before, but VSCO is my go-to for mobile edits, and I actually signed up for that. Really love that as an editor. It's got lots of good features, but it doesn't have everything. So for everything else, I go to Lightroom, which is Adobe Lightroom, fantastic, really useful, has all the presets from my computer, which I can put onto my phone and get things looking how I want them to. Afterlight is another editor, which is good for adding like grain and dust to things, which is nice. And Imaging Edge Mobile is where I get all my photos from my Sony camera over to my phone. It's just a little app that does that, nice and useful. So that rounds up my homepage, and for everything else I keep in the app drawer. And this is one of the things that I really like that Android does over iOS, is you can keep such a nice, clean, simple home screen. On iOS you've got icons everywhere and it always looks a bit messy, but I love that Android doesn't do that and you can just make it look how you want to look. It's the only thing I really miss when I go back to an iPhone from an Android phone. So yeah, I keep everything I don't really use that often in the drawer. There's not much to really tell you about here. There's a few apps that I've started using a lot, like HelloFresh is food delivery, which we get, and it's good for quarantine because we can get food delivered and we don't have to go out to the supermarket and stuff, so that's really nice. Pinterest is another app that I really like. In a similar way to Instagram, I use Pinterest just to browse like styles and themes and all those sorts of things. I've got lots of different boards for like text, some for colours and some for like just aesthetics and stuff and how I want things to look. I really like browsing through here. You've probably seen in my videos, if you've watched them, that I browse on here a lot, especially when I'm trying to show off the phone screen and stuff, just because it's so full of colour. It's just a really nice app to look at. So yeah, that's Pinterest and I really like it a lot. Another app I use is Microsoft To Do, and I've started using this a lot recently because me and my friend Ben, who run the podcast together, we use it for keeping track of topics we want to talk about on our podcast. It's called Interesting Things Said by Uninteresting People. If you want to listen to it, I'll link it below. No pressure, it's just me talking more rubbish than you'd normally expect. And Ben obviously joins me as well. But we talk about tech and things that are going on. Check it out if you fancy it. And of course, I do have TikTok. I don't post on TikTok. I don't have any TikToks for you to follow, but I just like it for keeping favourites. And, it's kind of funny anyway. So that pretty much rounds it off. Everything else I have talked about before, things like Trello, which is really great for me keeping track of my video ideas and the things I want to make and current things I've got going on. It's good for that, but I've talked about it loads of times before. So yeah, like I said, I've kept it super simple, nice and easy. One of the great things about keeping it this simple is when I switch to another Android phone, I can set it up really quickly. Beforehand, I was just spending way too long making it look all sorts of fancy and pretty, and you just really don't need to. So this is how I have it set up. While that is the bulk of it, there is one thing that I really like on the OnePlus launcher, which I forgot to mention, is the hidden app drawer. If you swipe off to the left, you actually get access to this hidden drawer and you can put any apps in there you like. I actually like putting all my money-based ones in there because even though they're password protected, which of course they are, it just adds that extra layer of invisibility to them so people just don't go looking around if you ever give your phone to somebody. And that's something else I really like. But that does pretty much round it off. As ever, I really like to hear from you guys, so if there's any widgets or apps that I should really check out for Android, then do let me know in the comments below. I do love to hear about that sort of thing. If you enjoyed the video, do pop a like. If you loved it, pop a sub on the way out, and I will see you all in the next one.